In the 1630s, in the Dutch Republic, a single flower bulb could be sold for more than a grand house in the city of Amsterdam. Think about that. Not a jewel, not a pile of gold, but a small, lumpy plant root that you put in the ground. People were trading their life's work, their family homes, and even large farms for one of these bulbs. Fortunes were made and lost over a flower that would only bloom for a single week. This strange time in history shows what happens when something beautiful becomes something that people want more than anything else. To understand this madness, we have to look at the world where it happened. This was the Dutch Golden Age. The Netherlands was one of the richest and most powerful places on earth. Its big cities, like Amsterdam, were buzzing with trade and new ideas. Dutch ships were the masters of the sea. They sailed to the far corners of the world, bringing back spices, silks, and treasures. This trade made many people very rich. They had money to spend, and they wanted to show it off with beautiful and rare things. Into this wealthy world came the tulip. This flower was not from Holland. It was a stranger, brought over from the tall mountains of Asia. It first grew in the secret gardens of powerful kings in the Ottoman Empire. To the Dutch people, the tulip was completely new and amazing. Its deep colors and elegant shape were like a piece of art. It quickly became the ultimate symbol of wealth. To have a rare tulip in your garden meant you were very important. But the story gets even stranger. The tulips that cost the most money were not the ones with solid, simple colors. They were the broken tulips. These were flowers with wild, beautiful streaks and flames of different colors on their petals. These amazing patterns were a complete mystery. No one knew why they appeared, and you could not make them happen on purpose. A plain bulb might one day produce a fantastically patterned flower, making its owner rich overnight. This unpredictability made them the rarest and most wanted things of all. What started as a quiet hobby for wealthy garden owners soon exploded. The desire for these special tulips grew so strong that a whole market was created just to trade them. But this was not a market like we have today. The real trading did not happen in a big, fancy building. It happened in the smoky back rooms of pubs and taverns. Over drinks, regular people like sailors, weavers, and shopkeepers began to buy and sell not the flowers themselves, but promises of flowers to come. This strange new market was built on something you couldn't even see. People started selling tulips that were still in the ground. They traded paper notes that promised a flower bulb would be delivered months later. This was a new idea. It meant you could buy and sell a flower many times before it ever bloomed. To understand how crazy things became, think about one sailor. He had just returned from a long, hard journey at sea. He delivered an important message to a rich merchant and was offered a fresh fish for his breakfast as a reward. The sailor was happy to have a good meal. While waiting, he saw a small round bulb sitting on the counter. It looked just like a type of onion he knew. Thinking it would make his fish taste even better, he picked it up and took a big bite. He had no idea what he had just done. That little bulb was not food. It was one of the rarest tulips in the world, a Semper Augustus. Its value was huge. It was worth more than all the money the sailor would earn in several years. For eating the most expensive onion in history, the poor sailor was sent to jail. This story, whether completely true or not, shows how much value people put on these flowers. The prices climbed higher and higher, far beyond what a simple plant should be worth. By the winter of 1636, the madness was at its peak. Everyone believed they could get rich from tulips. We know how high the prices went because people wrote them down. In one famous trade, a single bulb called a viceroy was not sold for money. It was exchanged for a whole collection of valuable things. The list is hard to believe. For that one tulip, a person gave 2 big loads of wheat and 4 loads of rye. They added 4 fat oxen, 12 sheep, and 8 pigs. The trade also included wine, beer, tons of butter and cheese, a new bed, and a full suit of clothes. It was a fortune. The very best tulips were even more expensive. A single bulb of a famous kind could be sold for the same price as a large, beautiful house on a canal in Amsterdam. People sold their family farms and life savings, all to buy one flower bulb they hoped would make them rich. But then, everything started to change. In February of 1637, in the city of Haarlem, a normal auction for bulbs was happening. But this time was different. The prices people offered were a little lower than before. A feeling of worry started to spread. Then, one buyer who had promised to pay a huge price for a bulb simply did not show up. A silence fell over the noisy tavern. For the first time, a dangerous question hung in the air. What happens if the prices don't just go up, but go down? Then, suddenly, the great crash began. It was a chain reaction, like dominoes falling one after another. Panic filled the air in the taverns and on the streets. Everyone rushed to sell their precious tulip contracts. But there was a huge problem. No one wanted to buy them anymore. The price of tulips fell so fast it was hard to believe. In just a few weeks, prices dropped by 99%. A flower that was worth a house was now worth less than an onion. The wind trade contracts, once tickets to a fortune, were now a terrible curse. People who had promised to pay thousands for a single bulb now faced losing everything. And here is the big secret of what really happened. The entire tulip market was an illusion. It wasn't built on real value. It was a shared dream, a story that everyone decided to believe at the same time. The whole thing was a psychological game. The value was never really in the flower. It was in the powerful belief that someone else would always be willing to pay more for it tomorrow. As long as everyone believed prices would keep rising, they did. But the moment that belief broke, the entire market disappeared into thin air. So why does this strange story from 400 years ago still matter so much today? Because this was the first big bubble in history. It created a pattern of human behavior that we have seen over and over again. It's a lesson that is always new. Think about the dot-com bubble in the late 1990s. People invested huge amounts of money in new internet companies, believing they would change the world. Many of those companies had no real way to make money, but their prices went up and up, until they crashed. It was the same human hope, the same shared story, playing out in a different time. This leads to the biggest question of all. Why do we do this? Tulip Mania shows a deep and sometimes scary truth about people. We are creatures who live by stories. We get so caught up in an exciting story of getting rich that we can forget what is real. The dream of a better life is a powerful thing. And when a whole group of people starts to believe in the same dream, it can feel more real than reality itself. The story becomes the most important part. It becomes a force that can build fortunes, and then destroy them in an instant. Today, the tulip is a beautiful flower. It is a famous symbol of the Netherlands. Every spring, huge fields bloom with amazing colors. It is a peaceful and wonderful sight. But hidden inside that beauty is the memory of a wild and crazy time. It is a quiet warning from history, a beautiful flower with a very dark secret. After the crash, people were left holding pieces of paper. These papers were promises to buy tulips at very high prices. But now, no one wanted to buy them. The flowers were suddenly worth almost nothing again. Rich merchants who thought they were even richer found out they had lost everything. The government tried to help fix the mess. They made rules to sort out the broken promises. But the trust was gone. People who were once friends and neighbors now argued over money that did not really exist. The happy feeling of the Dutch Golden Age had a dark shadow over it. It makes you wonder how so many smart people could believe a flower was worth more than a house. It was not just about being greedy. It was about something inside people. When everyone around you believes something is true, it is very hard to think differently. This is sometimes called crowd madness. One person gets excited, then another, and another. Soon the whole group is running in the same direction, not because it is a good idea, but because everyone else is doing it. They were not buying a flower, they were buying the feeling of getting rich quick. From this big mess, the world learned a very important lesson. It was the first time people saw what we now call an economic bubble. This is a special word for when the price of something goes up way too high, much higher than what it is really worth. Think of it like a real soap bubble. It gets bigger and bigger, shimmering with pretty colors. It looks amazing. But it is mostly filled with air. And you know what happens to all bubbles. Eventually, with just a tiny poke, they pop. And then there is nothing left. This story of the tulip is not just an old tale from hundreds of years ago. It has happened again and again all through history. The names and the things people buy change, but the story stays the same. The same hope and fear still drive people today. We have seen it with land, with stocks in companies, and even with new kinds of digital money. A new, exciting thing appears. Everyone rushes to buy it. The price shoots up to the sky. And then, just like with the tulips, the bubble pops. And what about the tulip itself? The flower did not know about the chaos it caused. It just kept growing, beautiful and quiet in the Dutch fields. Today, Holland is famous for its amazing fields of tulips that stretch for miles. They are a sign of spring and beauty. So, the next time you see a simple, beautiful tulip, remember its secret story. It is a story of how a flower's beauty could make a whole country go wild. It is a quiet reminder of a time when a single petal was worth a fortune, and how easily a dream of riches can disappear.